Cheers everyone, and welcome to a possibly very awkward video about a book that's absolutely phenomenal in my eyes, and that you probably have not heard of, which is this one right here, The Murder of Charles the Good. It's a medieval Latin literary diary. The book tries to promise me that it's the first literary diary. I never really believed those claims, but it's definitely very cool that it's probably one of the first, right? It's from 1127 to 29, so bound to be one of the first, I think. It's by this lovely individual, Galbert van Brugge, Galbert de Brugge, and as I said, it's translated from the Latin, so there's bound to be an English translation. There definitely is an English translation. There's a French translation as well, I think. I'm not really sure if there's a German one, but to be honest, I haven't really looked. So there you go with that. So briefly, it's about, obviously the murder of this guy, Charles the Good, but far more importantly, the aftermath, right? It's like saying the Iliad or the Trojan War, something like that, is about the Helena being carried away. It's like, well, maybe that's what it started, but it's definitely not where it ended. So this is the lovely lad himself, Charles the Good, who got murdered. I've got these lovely little postcards to help me, by the way, to show you some pages. It's actually quite this is something really interesting about this one, actually. So it's one of the 4 views of the Königstein fortress by Bernardo Bellotto, and I saw all 4 of them in the gallery, as you can see, National Gallery there. October last I went there, all 4 next to them, which was really fun, and I really love them. It's absolutely brilliant paintings. And especially the light and dark, the lighting, the shadowing is what always attracts me to his works, which is why there's something really, really interesting about this painting in particular. Because if we look at everything here, right, obviously the shadows fall to the left, so the sun must be somewhere right there. That's where the light will come from. But this couple, let me try it. Their shadow is going in the wrong way, and the dog or the cat, not sure what it is, their shadow is going in the opposite way, which is such a weird mistake, right? It can't be a mistake. It's so wrong. It must be right. Maybe he was drunk that day. I don't know. But stunning picture, and it's helping me to show you these pages. So we have Charles the Good. He was a count in Flanders, and he was actually a good count, right? Before that, there were a lot of counts that just didn't really care for the people, and that is especially what got the... So, all right, let me say it like this. There is this other family, which we're going to see in the book. It's the Ehrenbolds, the Ehrenbolds. And they were peasant people, non-free individuals. But they, throughout the years, through great diplomacy and politics, they rose onto the ranks and they became all these advisors for the count, right? So all these previous counts, they were just listening to whatever they said. And you have the government, but you have a sort of shadow government by these Ehrenbolds below it that really does everything. So the twist is that Charles the Good actually cared, saw that this fraudulent corruption was going on, and tried to stop it, which is eventually, spoiler alert, why he got brutally murdered in a church. So here we see it. It's Charles the Good being a good Christian individual there, where all the evil individuals coming in trying to murder him. Charles the Good is actually, I think, canonized or beatified because he's a martyr, right? That's sort of the story. I think somewhere they say that he might have gone into the church when he knew he was going to die to really become a martyr, because I think his father also died in a church, which is quite hilarious. Just, hey, if you're gonna die, might as well die a martyr, right? So yeah, these are just nice sort of vignettes about what we're gonna see in the story. But let's go on a bit further down. Well, we're not interested in this, but we're interested in this one, and it comes again with a lovely painting of the same fort, but this is from the northwest outside, I think. Southwest. Oh, damn it. Well, we have to redo the recording. No, but I like it a lot. I like it a bit less than because you have these clear, sharp lines here, of course. And that's brilliant. So let's put this nicely over there. And throughout the video, we'll get all four neatly lined up, and we're almost as if we were there. But back to the back to the book. So the basically two parts in this book, in Galbert's book, and one is the voorreed, is sort of the story, the martyr story. It's just a brief story about the life of Charles the Good, why he's so good. He's a brilliant individual, did everything phenomenal. So this part is sort of standard. It's just a brief background on, hey, you have this guy, he was really good. There's this team of medieval gangsters medieval mobsters who try to take over, and there's this sort of clash. They die. Charles the Good dies. Yeah, he gets betrayed. They kill him, and they intend to live happily ever after. But of course, seeing that we have so much of the book left, that's not how it went down. All right, let's get back in. Yeah, so briefly we see here, he's helping people that were hungry or poor. He says no to, I think, the crown of Jerusalem. Oh no, that's here, the crown of Jerusalem. They wanted him to make him king of Jerusalem as being the best Christian, but he said, no, that's not my duty. I'm here for the people of Flanders, which makes him, of course, a phenomenal individual. But let's see. We have the Arambolds. So you have this mob, right? This medieval mobsters, the Arambolds, but they're not free, and that's a problem if you're high ranking. But throughout the years, because they were so rich, people kind of forgot that they were not free, right? So they sort of turned into free people by virtue of nobody knowing that they weren't free. And, well, Charles the Good knew they weren't free, but he knew also if he said that they weren't free, there would be civil war. So they try to go around that. Don't bother with it, and just try to do something else. But there's one guy, absolute legend, what he did. I think it might be Tankmar. It's a knight. They fought with a knight. The Arambolds fought with a knight. No, sorry, briefly mistaken. No, there were two knights, and they were dueling. But one of the knights was married to a niece of the Arambolds, in the Arambold family. And apparently, if you're married to a non-free individual long enough, you yourself become non-free. And then a free person doesn't have to duel you. So this knight, he said, well, I'm not going to duel you, you're not free. By implication, the Arambolds are not free, and well, taking that up, digging that up right in the middle of all these sort of struggles, relation struggles. I thought I had a picture here, but digging these up in these obviously there's going to be a clash, and well, the Ehrenbolds decided to kill the Count, which they thought, we kill the Count, then we just set in a new Count, everybody will be glad, and it's done. We're back on top. But that's not true at all. Lucky for us. So here is the ending of the martyr story. So what we have here is like a martyr story, or a story of martyrdom, and a diary. And this is where we switch from this brief overview of who was Charles the Good and why was he so immensely good, to the actual diary. And the diary is very much the meat and the potatoes of this book. That is what makes it so brilliant. The diary spans, maybe it says it here, from 2 March to 7 of May, day by day, almost day by day, in 1127. And he also did other things in 1127. We also had other parts at 1128, I believe. But almost a day by day retelling of what happened after. Because there was a civil war, there was a siege. So we had treason, we had a siege, an uprising. They seized the church, the traitors. They holed up in the church. And we had this big siege of the church, which spans a big part of the book. All these people die or get betrayed or turn around and become for the other side, or flip-flop between them. All these phenomenal little pastiches of people joining the story briefly, maybe dying soon after. It's really, really, really interesting. And it's also very much showing this sort of day-to-day life, the social responsibilities, the politics, just everything about just standard medieval life. Because it's a day-by-day, almost day-by-day diary. Like, you feel all these things. So the role of God, so I thought about this before. This is the Iliad, but just different. You have this giant story, and what I really love about the Iliad is that it has these little windows into individuals, where I think the first person that got killed by Agamemnon has maybe half a page of life story, and then he just dies and we forget about it. But that's what is really cool, what I really enjoy about it. You have these gods intermingling with things of man, and it's written, these people were of course heavily religious, even so that I read that a non-believer would still know the Bible by heart, which is astounding, of course. But I guess if you don't have so many books to read as we have, it's maybe a bit easier. But yeah, so everything is also seen through the lens of God. If you're good, if you're right, so if we duel and I'm right, I won't die because God will protect me. And this role of God sort of takes the role of the different gods in the Iliad. You have all these little pastiches and these little windows into the life, which also we also find in something like the Iliad. And there's a big siege. I mean, there is a big siege that takes up maybe half of the diary, the siege of the church, which of course it's maybe a bit more superficial, but it's also very fun and interesting. You have all these different fights with different people and all these lines running through each other. It's a really interesting read. So here we have my third postcard, third helper postcard, which is inside. It's the picture of the Brunnenhaus, which is this one, which is a giant building with a large well in it, so the people in the fortress can get water without having to go outside the well, outside the fortress. Look at that, stunning, absolutely brilliant. So let's put that one right next to one. I have to say, these two of the four I've seen, so they're only four, I've seen all four. But of the four, these two are my favorites. The buildings, phenomenal. I really love it. But yeah, so here starts the diary. We see 2nd of March, 1127, the diary starts with the death, the martyrdom of Charles and the troubles of the first week. That's what it says, the troubles of the first week. And it's slowly. So that is the beauty of this book, is that you can just open it on any page. Well, actually, you have a helper postcard there still. But let's open it on some page. And we got, well, let me see. Well, okay, so this is problems with the body. I think it might be because the body, it's in the church. So the church now is not clean, but you want to remove the body. But the body is of a martyr. So all these people, all these priests from different parts of different churches go to the body and try to claim it for their church, because then they have a martyr, things like that. Let's see, something else. Someone gets expelled, chooses to be expelled. Oh, it's also, so maybe a bit more sort of in grand European grand politics during this time, but because of the death, so Flanders was a really big merchant, had a really good merchant relationship with, I think, both England and France. And because this count died, England wanted to put there a count that was more favourable to England, and France wanted to do the same, but then for France, right? So apart from, you might think, this is just struggles within Flanders, but no, not at all. It's also a struggle in England and the French and all these different cities within Flanders, within the region, that have these different opinions and try to go against each other or try to help each other, but then turn on each other, something like that. And of course, I mean, it's still a literary diary. It's just good sentences, but of course it's translation, so that really depends. But it wasn't a dry read at all, even though it might seem to some like a really dry topic. It's such a lively book. There's so many there's so many moving parts, and it really feels as if you were there, which of course a diary should do that, but it's just phenomenal that this is written 900 years ago, and it holds up so much as a good piece of writing. I think it's brilliant. So let's go to the last, going a bit slow, but let's go to the last helper card here, which completes our nice collection over there. This will then be the Northwest, right? As before, I missed the Southwest, so there we go. Königstein from the Northwest. Absolutely stunning. Check him out, Bernardo Bellotto. Phenomenal painter. All right, so let's go back. I had to think a bit for why I marked this page, but now I know it's this one. Bertolf, which is sort of, if we're talking about the Arambolds being a mob, this would be the Don, the godfather, the absolute apex leader, top of the top boss. And he's very old, and he here is getting lynched on the market, which is it's quite this part, it's about 2 or 3 pages. This entry for me also shows how well Galbert could write, because this is basically Galbert's mortal enemy, right? He was an absolute fan of Charles the Good, and Charles got killed because of this man. This man thought of it, made all the plans, and he's getting lynched now, which a lot of people right here would say is sort of divine justice. It's the justice, he deserved it. So what we see here is, well, if you can read it, congratulations, and if you can't, let me briefly maybe say something about it. But well, things like that. So things like here. Let me try to translate it. So went that man before with honor, now with shame. Before, well, honored, now doomed, with unmoved face, and his eyes aimed at the sky, or aimed at heaven. And unless I am mistaken, he shouted without voice, but only in the sort of inner part. It's like the hidingness, which is it's probably a better word for it. Sort of inside of his heart. So without voice, but only with his heart. Always helping God, and for help. He shouted for help to the always helping God who rules over the people. But so this part, just briefly, just that one comment where your mortal enemy, the man who ruined everything, gets his deserved justice and is against God. The man is against God. I mean, if you would be for God, you would be a friend of Charles, and if you're not, you murdered him, so you murdered him in a church, no less, right? That's not something to sneeze about. You can't do that. That's where people are safe, and he had them murdered in a church, which is, it made the church unpure. The church has to be clean, things like that. Well, like spiritually cleaned, well, probably physically cleaned as well. And even in those pieces, we see him getting his deserved justice, or at least what people would perceive. And Galbert writes about him as if he's somehow sorry for what he did, and he's asking the God for help. And it's a sort of sweetening of it shows that Galbert is not just a pure historian writing down whatever happened, but he thinks about the sort of characters, the people that he knew. But it shows it's really easy to write about Bertolf as if he would be a sort of two-dimensional brute murdering the phenomenal priestly count, right? So that's something that's really, really struck out to me. Things like that, and you don't get them every now and then. You get them pretty much always. It's every time you get these phenomenal things. And well, here's just the part about him. This is also this is why I marked it. Here we have sort of a talk about how Bertolf got lynched, and this is something that I love. As someone else, I don't know how you pronounce. Well, I know how to pronounce it, but I don't know how to translate this. But this basically someone else who had power. He came to the Bertolf, so the traitor, and he basically said, "Tell me that who are the traitors? Without you, without Isaac, which was another traitor, and all the other known traitors, who are the unknown traitors that have to suffer still, and that we have to catch?" Sorry. And Bertolf basically says, you, as well as I, know them. Basically saying, you are a traitor yourself because we work together, which may or may not be the case, but I don't know particularly. But he says, hey, you are the traitor as well. You know all of them. Stop with this. And this guy, Willem, the man in power, he absolutely takes it out on him, making him. Let me see. It's quite horrid. So he's already dying, right? But they have at some point something about dogs. Yeah, they put dog inside. What's the word? Entrails? Dog entrails? I don't know. But they put them around them, and they put a dog visage on his mouth while he was dying. This man was like 60, 70, 80, right? It's an old man. He couldn't do anything himself. He was just really old. And they tried to show that he was a dog and acted dogly, like a dog, and had to die like a dog as well, which is just, it's quite an end. It's quite terrible. It's quite powerful. But there's one other part that maybe exemplifies exactly what I like so much and what I meant with it being the Iliad-esque, because of the sort of windows into little individuals. Because during the during the siege of the church, there's this one young guy who likes, who wants to be inside to get into the treasure, to find treasure in the church. So he goes in, but then he slips and he dies because the treasure chest closes in on him. So he dies stuck in the chest. And that's everything you hear about him. That's it, right? It's just, and it happened probably. Like, why would you write it in a diary? Because overall, it does follow history. It's not fiction. It's not thought of. It's just really well written and interesting. So yeah, that's basically it. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. Would I read it again? Absolutely. As we all know, intellectuals around here, if a book is worth reading twice, then only then it's worth reading at all. And yes, I would absolutely read this over and over and over. There's so much to get out of it. It's such an interesting topic. It's such interesting language. To me, it's just on the same level. For me personally, my ruffles and feathers with this book, same level as, well, the Iliad, the Odyssey, the Aeneid, maybe things like the Divine Comedy, things like that. Obviously, it's a little less complicated than something like the comedy, but it's still, there's so much to get out of this. I just really enjoyed myself reading it. I can highly recommend it to anyone who likes to read, or just has eyes in general. I think it's really fun. There you have it. The Murder of Charles the Good, Count of Flanders, by Galbert van Brugge. Now, I hope that wasn't as awkward as you expected. This is definitely not the first take, but we'll go from here. Only rise up here. And hey, if you know a book, if you love a book and nobody knows about it, then you have two options. I'd like to see the first one. The first one is make a video about it on your own, just like I did. Grab your camera and just go. And put it in the comment. I'll watch the video. I'll probably read the book at some point. So there's that. And secondly, if you don't want to make a video on your own, you can always leave just the title in the comments. I'm perfectly fine with that myself. Just if you have a great recommendation that people don't know about, please share it. And with that, we almost hit the half-hour mark, which is staggering. So I'm going to bid adieu All right, lads. Have a great one. See you maybe in about 2 months if this pops off. And otherwise, it was nice trying. All right. Cheers.
La esperanza de un cariño adormecido. Yo sabré reír, yo sabré llorar, yo sabré